Hello, everyone. This is JD Calderon, and this is Indie Comics Explained. And today I have another fantastic guest. But before we get to him, please hit like, hit subscribe, share out the video, let your friends know this is going on, and that we're bringing you some fantastic indie guests. And also, I have an Indiegogo going on currently for the Oswald Chronicles. So if you go check that out, that's in the show notes. And without further ado, let's bring in our guest, Mr. Ted Davies. How are you?
How you doing, sir? JD, good. Thanks for having me. Good evening,
Thank you.
everybody. I hope everybody's good in Hollywood.
Thank you for being here. So Ted, let's jump right into it.
Mhm.
You know, we all start off the same. We're little kids collecting the comics, reading the comics. We all have that in common. But what we don't have in common is what is the comic book or even novel. It doesn't even have to be a comic book. What's the novel or the thing that brought you in and it made you say the words, "This is what I want to do."
1977. I was 6 years old, and I went and saw Star Wars for the first time. And there was a Checkers drugstore in Detroit, where I grew up, Northwest Detroit. And they had for sale C-3PO and R2-D2 action figures, the small ones that right off the Kenner shelf, And right next to it has Spin Rack Star Wars. And that was the first comic book, and that was it. I still have that comic book. It's ripped to shreds. I've got it in plastic. But that was it, man. It wasn't even I think it was probably a reprint. It wasn't even it's not even a good, but it's it, man. That was it. Smell the newsprint, the ink on it, and that was it. So I was hooked. I was hooked from that moment.
All right, that's cool. Now, early on, obviously, you must have had some influences other than the Star Wars comics. So, what were some of those early influences that got you motivated?
Yeah. As far as comic books themselves,
it could be comics, it could be books, because you're an author, so it doesn't really matter. We're talking about creation
in general. A lot of the books that I read growing up, we had the Scholastic thing in school. I know you probably had it too.
Yeah.
You'd buy like $30 worth of books, got you, a ton of books.
Yeah.
And there were things like, of course, there was the Star Wars books that they had out, the trilogy things, and a couple of the books that that I remember reading though were like Edgar Allan Poe and silly thing, Mark Twain. If you're talking about prose books, when it got to comic books though, the Hulk, Daredevil, Wolverine, and I never thought I'd say this before, but Submariner was one of the ones that for some reason, I don't know, some dude with wings on his feet, I don't know what, it just kind of drew me there. More Marvel than it was DC. Everything was Marvel when I was a kid, but it just I just gravitated towards that. I liked the art better back then. But
okay, well, that's cool.
Yep.
So now so you're a writer artist, and you're obviously writing your scripts for yourself.
Yep.
Now, when you're first breaking down the process for yourself, when you're creating a story, all right, first we'll do script. So what type of script style are you using? Are you using like a rough outline type of script, like a Marvel style, or using like a tighter script style like DC? What's your preference?
I use more Marvel style. I'll go through it, and what I'll do is I get one of those moleskin books, the black ones, the leather bound with the strap on it. And I'll just go through that, and I'll just start writing. I'll do like stream of consciousness writing, and then I'll start going through outline. I'll start highlighting everything, start at bullet points, what I'm going to do. Then I'll bring arrows back and forth, and where the plot's going in that, and then I'll take it, and then I put it into Word after that. Sometimes what I'll do with now that we're working with an editor, it's a little bit different now. I'm working with Chuck Pino on quite a few things I'm working on right now with Retrieve, and then the new series that's coming out in the winter in the early next year. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to take some of the artwork, if it is done already, say that the cover or one of the other pages is done, I'll put that in the outline. I'll float that picture in, so it gives the editor or the proofer just a little bit better scope of what I'm trying to do, because words can be erased. And even I heard you yesterday on your interview yesterday, I think it was yesterday, that you said you go in and you edit as you're going too, because it sounds better or it does something better, right? So, and I feel that totally, because it's so, it can be erased. It's not like when we were younger, it was permanent ink, you know?
Right.
But yeah, it's not, having it too tight like that it doesn't work, because you have to have some fluid to it. You have to, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, I'm with you on that.
So that's cool. So obviously you're writing your scripts for yourself and you're breaking them down, right? Now you breaking them down, like, you know, I've seen artists do it different ways. Like I saw one guy, he would take post-it notes. Each panel would be a post-it note. You know,
That's
and
good. It works.
I seen other people just break out an 8.5 by 11 sheet and they'll draw out the page and they'll do the little, you know, they do the little squigglies that way and they'll blow it up and do that. Like what's your preferred process?
So you're saying as far as the layout of the page, the comic page. So yeah, I'll take an 8 by 11. Start it out first because I work everything in watercolor. The thing about watercolor, man, it's instant. So once it's down, that's it. You got some digital work. You can probably scan it, and I've done that a couple times. Add a few things in, but yeah. So I'll I'll sketch out 8.5 by 11, just copy paper, real quick, and then I'll go through, and then I'll put the book all together. You know, as far as I usually only do one side though, so I got like 20 pages of copy paper, and then I'll go through. I'll make my notes, do my red lines, figure out what my borders are going to be exact. You know, kind of. Because on the watercolor paper is a little bit different. We're doing 11 by 17, but it's 12 by 18, so I have to have border and I've got to do all that and trim things down. A little bit more labor intensive, but when I scan it and it's in digital format, it's done. I don't have to do anything to except add lettering. You know, maybe a word bubble here or some explosion, whatever. There's a couple things I can add to it, but yeah. But always copy paper first. Always copy paper first, and I think. I used to use a 2H pencil, but it was a little bit hard lead, so I went back to a number 2, and I just go through it, just like we're just sketching out like we were kids, and go from there. Again, make it real fluid because you're going to be changing it, and once you get that black line on there, I'm sure you're the same way. Your mind locks yourself into that box, and that's the problem. I'm always thinking outside the box up till that point, right?
Right.
So. But,
okay,
yeah,
that's cool. Now, do you letter your own stuff as well, or do you send that?
I do. No, I letter everything too. Yeah,
right,
and that's been interesting. Because I was a architectural designer by trade for almost 30 years. So when we were in college and even in high school, our lettering was everything. So my penmanship's actually pretty good. So I'm working on it right now to where I'm making my own. Font. So I've got my tech guys that are working on and tech girls actually. I have to be nice, but they work on my website and that, and we've been working trying to build something that we're going to start using in all my books. It's going to be my own text, my own font, because people have always I've been very lucky in that regard because people always ask me, hey, can you do a sign or can you do this? Because architecturally, that's what we had to do. We had to hand draw these things up till 94. And then we started getting CAD, and we started getting some systems that were actually pretty decent for multicolor and that. But yeah, so I do. And that's a whole nother animal. I mean, if one thing I could outsource in the future, it would be that. It would be that because it's just the spreading the wealth a bit, helping others out is really a core of what I do. If I'm my foundation, what I want to do, take as many people as we can with us and raise the bar, right? So that would be one thing I would probably outsource. So anybody listening in the future, that might be something that we could talk about. But
gotcha. Now, when you're lettering, the only reason I ask is I letter my own books too. So it's just like,
and I've seen your work, man. Your work's beautiful, man. You've been doing this a long time. I mean, mine is, chicken scratches compared to your stuff, man. Yeah, I've seen some really, your covers alone, dude. Many props, big time.
Thank you.
Very, very nice.
That's all the artists. I'm just a writer. So the only thing I do is I write and I letter. So they do all the good stuff.
Humility, yeah. Humility is a good thing. Being humble. Yep.
Yeah. But one of the things, because the one thing I do is I edit. I mess with my work all the time. I'm a noodler.
Yep.
When I'm lettering and I'm like, All right, I'll change that line. And, this will sound better like this. You know, are you doing this? Are you doing that similar process?
Oh yeah, right on the fly. You have to, because there's going to be something. You got to look for inspiration every day, and I do that. It's hard to sometimes because you don't want to mess with it too much because you'll never stop.
Right.
I always say that art pieces are never done. They're never done. Van Gogh was never done. El Greco was never done. Even Frank Lloyd Wright as the architect, he was never done. He was still continuing, you know. And if you go back, you're going to drive yourself crazy. But I've caught myself a few times, man, where you just got to put that pencil down and walk away from it. You have to. But you have to. But inspiration happens, though, like I said. And you find something, oh, dude, that's a great line. Maybe I could work that into my story. That would be really cool, you know. But
yeah, they say artwork is not finished; it's abandoned.
Yes, that is very, very true. Very true.
I don't know, have you ever heard of Frazetta? One of the things is his wife had Frank Frazetta. His wife had to lock him out of the museum because he would go into the museum and start working on his old paintings.
Yep.
You know, and it's just like, how insane is that? You know, how do you mess with these things that are already incredible? Right.
You know? And they are your children. I mean, there comes a point in time where your kids have to go and be their own people, you know, and that's, my kids are in their 20s, and it's hard because you can set them on a trajectory, but they got to get there. It's the same with art. It's the same. They're your children. You have to let them go, have them have their own lives. And honestly, when it happens that the public is involved in it, they're not yours anymore. You know what I mean? They're really, you're the channel that it came through, but they're really not yours anymore. You know, even though we do get paid for IPs and everything else, intellectual property, but you know.
Yeah. No, that's cool. But now your watercolor style, why did you choose to go that route instead of, like, you know, penciling and then going digital? You know, what was the reason for that?
I've always been a watercolor artist, but everything looks, not yours doesn't, but a lot in the industry, everything looks the same. And I didn't want to have something to where I wanted an artist book. I wanted somebody to say, okay, I've got a good story. I want it to stand alone. It's going to be, art is subjective anyway. So it doesn't matter whether you like my artwork or not. The story is the most important thing to the whole. Anybody can redraw my book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I felt more comfortable with watercolor. It was instant. I wanted to show people that you could take an idea, produce it, get it out into the world, and do it on your own. You don't have to wait for other people. You don't have to get an artist unless you feel more comfortable with that. However you want to do it. I'm a control freak, so it's you know, it's easy for me to say that, and that's the thing. This is the ironic thing. With watercolor, you have no control. You have very little control. And so when it's down on paper and you see it, that's it. I mean, that's I really wanted that. I wanted people to experience the, that looks really cool. I'm okay. That makes sense to me. I see what he did there. That's pretty neat. I've never seen that done before, especially in a comic book. How many watercolor comic books are there? Handful? I don't know. There's got to be a few of them. I know Neil Gaiman and American Gods. There's a few things that are out, you know, that have some really substance. And I love watercolor. I love that transparency, depth, that it, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? That's why I did it. And that's why I like working with watercolor, because you can start it out as a base and then you can change it and enhance it in digital format if you want. And that's, it just works for me. That, you know, and it's just, anybody who knows me knows that my work's in watercolor. Oh, he's, you know, and they know it. They can see it 10 miles away. Said, oh, I hate that, or I love it. Either way, you know, it's good. At least they're having an experience with it, you know. Yeah,
the only artist that I could think of that regularly does it is Bill Sienkiewicz.
Sure.
John J. Muth. I don't know if you ever seen Moonshadow.
Yep, Moonshadow. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Tony Moy is a big one. Indy wise. Tony Moy is really good. I don't know if you know him or not, but he's terrific.
The name's familiar.
Fantastic. Check his work out. I'll give him a shout out. I'll make sure I tag him on this but yeah, he's very, very good. I like the way his, and I noticed a lot of the, he's not, but there's a lot of Argentinian and a lot of Brazilian artists that do watercolor. And it's a medium that's inexpensive in a lot of countries, which is great. I've been fortunate because my dad left me a lot of watercolors when he passed away. So I have a lot of material to work with, or that I had to work with to start me out anyway.
Right.
But yeah, I just love watercolor. You can do so many things with it. Wrong. Wrong. So,
Right. But was your dad an artist?
He was. My father was. I don't know New York. You might not know Soupy Sales. Do you know Soupy Sales? I
Yeah.
don't know if you know.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad was his art director and his photographer when he had
Wow.
the show, and that's what he started out with. Then he worked after that was canceled. After the show was canceled in the '60s, he ended up getting hired in at Ford in their art department. So he worked on the Mustang. During the heyday, the '60s, that whole thing, and he worked there until he retired in early '90s. So yeah, he was. He had work at the DIA, the Detroit Institute of Arts, and yeah, he was very, very accomplished artist. He worked a lot. Later in life, about I'd say probably 15 years ago, he picked up watercolor again, but he did a lot of artwork in oils, and he taught me. The first oil painting I didn't use an activator to dry it, and he didn't tell me about that, and he did it on purpose. That thing took like 4 months to dry. It was terrible. But that was my dad. But they had he did a lot of acrylic work in that kind of format, and it was cool being growing up with that, being a Ford kid. You were in this environment with all these different artists that my dad knew, and these guys were airbrushing motor picture. I mean, it was intense, man. It was just incredible. These guys were pinstriping cars on their lunch hour. They'd go out, eat a sandwich, and pinstripe a car. It was just insane. It was crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I've seen those guys because their hand that just has to be rock solid.
They're surgeons. They're surgeons with paint, bro. I mean, they really are. But my dad was always inspiring me, whether it was in architecture or whatever. It was, he was a Welshman. My dad was from Wales, so Frank Lloyd Wright was a staple diet in our house. Everything was Frank Lloyd Wright because he was also Welsh, a descended Welsh, and organic architecture kind of, that's what inspired me to go into architecture. But my dad was like, you'll never make it if you become an artist. You're gonna be starving, and so I took that whole thing. So I did it, and I took my lumps, and now kids are in college, and I figured I'm doing it. We nothing to lose now, So, and that was it. So that's I should have done this 20 years ago, but anyway.
Sometimes it takes a while to get to that point.
Yeah.
So I mean, so what was it that? All right. So obviously, it's something you wanted to do for a long time.
Sure. Oh yeah.
What was that motivating factor? Like how long ago did you start in comics? Like, was it the last 4 or 5 years?
Well, let's see. Okay, I've always been drawing. I've always had, fine arts and all that stuff. So I've always done everything from Beetle Bailey when I was a kid, Garfield, all those Smurfs, all that kind of stuff growing up. I went, let's see, I've been working on books for about 4 or 5 years now. I've been working really hard on getting the storylines down. That was the biggest thing. My storylines were the first thing. Writing, I was always a writer, so I was getting, I went back to school for an English master's, and I was working on all that stuff, and I was writing. So the synopsises, everything that I was doing to build up to the comic books were already done. I've been building that for, say, 10 years, 5 to 10 years. So my drawing, I only got published last year, August. So, I mean, it took me that long to find somebody I was comfortable enough with that I could get a hybrid contract that I could get out of and then do my own thing if I didn't like where it was going or I wanted to take the book another way.
Right.
So, I had other options. I had other offers, and over the years, and never, they just never worked out, or they weren't giving enough, or the routine. Yeah. It was so, I was directed so much to go into a self-publishing avenue because it just makes more sense for me. But so it's been technically, I guess, would say 2 years. I'm going into my second year, if you want to call it that, technically, because it's in book production, if you want to call it that. So, but as far as comic books, I've been a fan for since I was 6 years old. So it's once it's in your blood. I've always been drawing. I've always done a lot of different, whether it be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, whatever, as we were teenagers and all that, and it's in my blood. You can't get around it. And it's just another medium, whether it's a comic book or the thing I like about comic books. And that's one of the reasons I brought Retrieve out the way I did, was I wanted people to take a sophisticated idea that they could read in 20 minutes and digest it and say, damn, that I could do this. And I also wanted it for kids that are not kids, but young adults that maybe don't have the best reading capability. I wanted them to be able to take and digest something that is a concept that'll make them think, make them, ponder, but they can still inhabit that world without worrying about if it's got 400 pages or not, and they can't read it and they're going to put it down and forget about it. You know what I mean?
No, I know.
And that's important to me, so that people can enjoy the book and not be intimidated by it. That makes sense. So
yeah, perfectly. Yeah, I mean, myself, I started reading comics and then you move into novels. I just, I started at a very early age. I think I started reading novels at 11. So, and I started reading science. I was reading Asimov at 12.
Oh, sure.
So,
oh, yeah. No doubt.
So, you get into it and, and
it
just
becomes
one of
you.
those things.
It's your blood. It comes, And you're I look forward to those. I collect antiquated books. I've got a YouTube channel and I did a special on that. I love antique books that take, years to actually produce and then build. They take months to make because they've got to melt the lead and they've got to typeset the whole thing. And and thank God I've had the option and the luxury of having a library full of them here. Yeah, man, it's awesome. It's such a treat. And some of the books that I have are so far off the reservation, they're not the norm. I've got Steinbeck, I've got Hemingway, that kind of thing, but some of them are like Goldsmith, and they're like the Vicar of Wakefield, and all these bizarre, really cool stories not anybody knows about,
Right.
But they're books that have long been forgotten, and it's important that we're stewards to keep them going,
Yeah. It was funny. I was just thinking about it earlier today. It's just strange. We're like, you grow up with certain authors. Like, I have a set of questions that I ask everybody, right? But
sure,
one of the names that I sometimes mention is Robert Heinlein, right? And it's surprising to me how many people don't know him, don't know his work.
Yeah.
The same thing with
he's how long's he been gone? Is he gone?
Yeah,
he's got to be gone. He's got to be gone now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Say old.
I would imagine at least 20 years.
Wow. Yeah. It's been that long. Wow.
Yeah, like him, Roger Zelazny. The Amber Chronicles. Fritz Lieber.
Lieber. Which one was that one?
He was the Swords of Lankmar. He Fat Fart and Grey Mauser.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's how I know it. Because Mike Mignola did the. Yeah, yes. I got the. I was almost gonna. I have those in a safe area back here, and I'm like, God, I almost took that out because I was thinking about a really bizarre comic that nobody's probably ever seen that Mike did, and it's that one. It's like years and years before Hellboy. But yeah, that's how I knew the name. Okay, anyway, sorry.
No, that's okay. No, that's what we're here for. So that's cool. You just see these older writers, and the thing is like, Harlan Ellison just left us, right? A couple years ago.
Yep.
And nobody's talking about Harlan, and it's just you just see, these names, these fantastic creators and fantastic authors.
Yeah.
Octavia Butler. Who talks about Octavia Butler anymore? She was incredible. But nobody talks about her.
We should do something about that.
We
got the platforms.
Yeah, this is true.
We should do something about that, man.
Yeah, but then it'll force me to read their books again.
No,
which is what we should do anyway.
Well, hey, you keep the dream alive. It's
exactly.
There's only so much you can do. You can inspire people at the next generation.
Yeah,
we should all be that lucky. But
yeah, maybe we should put together a little circle and we'll
I think that'd be a really good idea. Just a group. Yeah, I think that'd be fun. Little nerd reading group. I think that'd be dynamite. We might educate some people, man.
And get me to it's funny. It's like there's certain books that I want to read, but I've yet to read. I have Don Quixote sitting on my shelf.
Oh man, what a creep! what I mean, yeah, I would love to have an older series of that, like the, well, however volumes, what was it, 3 or 4 volumes it came in or whatever. Incredible.
Right.
Yeah.
But I can imagine that those things must be expensive.
Oh yeah. I mean, there was a I know in New York you got a ton of them, but in Detroit they've got a rare bookstore called King's. It's in downtown Detroit, and it's a national treasure. It's incredible.
Right.
Five stories of old books. I mean, not everything's overpriced, but some of them are just incredible. I mean, 1500, 1496. Some of the books, it's incredible. They're in a special room. They're you've got this vapor lock door when you go in. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
But it's like, all right, step in the hazmat suit, you can go in the room.
Right. And you have to have an appointment. Now it's different. They probably won't even let you in the building now, but but
yeah, a buddy of mine, when I was out in California in October, he took us to a bookstore out there, and somewhere in my phone, I forgot the name of it, but they had all right, each section had its own, had its own space. So you had science fiction, you had mystery, whatever. And then it was crazy because each section, or at least it seemed like each section, had its own vault. So it was like a room, and it had these. I guess the place used to be a bank, and they've turned the vault.
What a great idea!
Yeah, and the place was incredible. It was huge.
I'm sure
these huge sculptures made out of books. I mean, the place was crazy, but they had these vaults. And inside the vaults, there were book rooms with their most expensive books.
Wow!
And you could go in there and you could check them out. You could see it was incredible. I was like, wow,
that's a great idea, man.
Yeah. It couldn't happen here in New York because just the rent here is just too expensive.
Oh yeah, it's up. Yeah. I mean, you lived in Manhattan for how long? Yeah, God.
Yeah.
For a cup of coffee, jeez. You guys were shaving gold for a cup of coffee. Man, it's crazy.
Exactly. But but. All right, let's get back to you, man. Let's get back to you. So talk to me. Talk to me about Retrieve.
Sure.
Let me. What's going on with Retrieve?
Okay. Do you want me to tell you that story? I'm gonna give you the elevator pitch. What do you want? You tell me.
Give it to me.
Okay. So Retrieve is a story about two brothers. They're both MIT grads. They basically built their empire by making affordable AI for the common man, and it's set in the future. Retrieve is a story about them creating an algorithm. In the future, we have different computer systems. It's about 30 years set in the future, which is kind of what I like. I like to set that tone. It could happen in our lifetimes, maybe. What if?
Right.
And what I wanted to do is bring in two brothers that could come up with an algorithm that could track the electrical signature of a soul, or a thumbprint or fingerprint, if you want to call it that. Right. And what they do is they come up with an algorithm to find out when the soul of a deceased person is going to be reborn. And they come out and they find out that it's a series of calculations, but they can find out when people that have never been brought to justice in their past lives are going to be reborn again in the future within a 3 to 5 year window. So they figure they're not going to be able to run the algorithms all by themselves, so they decide that they're going to build a AI called Archimedes. And Archimedes is basically the catalyst. He brings the Retrieve program to light. And it basically, what they do is their descendants, their great-great-grandfather was a Holocaust survivor. And he left them in his will through the family. He left videos. He says, man, I wish we would have gotten Hitler. I wish we would have gotten these monsters that were never brought to justice. And it really played on the brothers for a while. They were just thinking about that. And they never met their great-great-grandfather, obviously. But he did survive the Holocaust, and or they wouldn't have been there, right? So they decide, why don't we use Retrieve to track down the reincarnation of Hitler and the rest of these guys that were never brought to justice in the future. Now, there's a lot that goes into it. So the Retrieve program, there's regression, and Archimedes involved in all of it. Well, in a nutshell, what happens is the UN gets involved, and they're not liking where this is going, and they want to make sure there's a beta test before it, because the world finds out about it. Archimedes accidentally leaks the information onto the World Wide Web, and he does a press release, not knowing that that's not what the boys wanted, the brothers wanted, and it goes viral, and it's a real, lack of a better word, shit show from that point. But the UN's involved, and they come up with an idea that the UN gives them permission to run a beta test to see if this thing's going to work. So they decide, and this is up to this is where we're at right now, book 2. Book 3 will be coming out, and this is I'm getting into that when I'm explaining this. The beta test, they decide to go after Dr. Joseph Mengele, Dr. Death, basically the monster that mutated a bunch of Jewish children in the guise of medical research. Never brought to justice. Died on a beach in Argentina with his wife. And so that entails the beginning of the story. So Retrieve basically is, in a nutshell, they are regressing people's souls so that they can bring them to justice for past life's crimes. So the dynamic of the story, though, is how, if this got into the wrong hands, this could be a game changer for a lot of things, because people would go after, who would you go after? I mean, forget about who would you want to meet. Would you want to wait for your grandparents to come? Would you want to see what they would be reincarnated in their next, and in the future, the people believe more in reincarnation than they do now. It's a different mindset. But Retrieve it's to show you maybe what could happen if you really thought about it. Hitler's not going to come back in his old body from the 40s. He might be somebody completely different. And then how do you manage to digest the fact that once the person's regressed, the person that was living is no longer there anymore? It's the old person. It's a death in itself. You have a walking corpse, so to speak, and all the people that are affected by that, all the loved ones. And so the story is pretty deep. It gets pretty philosophical, and there's a lot of underlying tones. There's a secret society involved in it, and all of these I've taken a lot of different historical fiction, and there's a few things that are happening, even though it's set in the future. There's a lot of things that like the Odessa Society is involved, the Nazi Odessa Society, which not a whole lot of people know about who they were, how they how they got rid of a lot of the Nazis out of Germany during that whole mess, and how they still run things today, which is very interesting. But anyway, so I don't want to get too deep into it, but Retrieve, so that's it. I've got here's the 2 books that are out right now. I'll give you a sneak peek here. This is book 1 that was whoops, I don't know if you can see it or not. It's a little bit bright there. I don't do it justice. You can check it on my website though, teddaviesartistry.com. And then there's that's because the lighting's so bad. Sorry about that. So bright.
Oh yeah, there you go.
But that's Archimedes, so you know. But there's a lot of things, humanity of Archimedes that develops, and his who he is, and the storyline is going to continue on until December. It'll be 5 books total on the Retrieve, and then after that arc is done, I'll jump the gun a little bit. So what we're doing with Chuck Pino's involved with the Retrieve as far as proving, a little bit editing on it. But as far as the next series that's going to be coming out, Archimedes is going to be the series, and it's going to be all about Archimedes and his future and what he is grappling with after the Retrieve program and everything, and his dynamic and in the future. And it's got some really, really cool things happening. That's going to be a really cool story, because it's going to be set 100 years after Retrieve. It's going to be some really, really, really cool stuff.
Cool. Now, the Retrieve storyline, how many issues do you expect it to span?
So we've got 5 on the books now coming out. We've got the 3rd one's going to be coming out on end of next month. The 4th will be in the fall, and then the 5th will be right around December, right around Christmas. Okay. And then that'll be the end of the arc. We might throw in a bonus 6th book because of the way the story is. There's so much build up to the end that we might have to put a 6th book in, because there just might not be enough paper in 5 books. We might have to put another, because only 20 pages, 22 pages. And so that's, that's one thing too, and then what we're going to do is we're going to launch a trade paper afterward. So the books are all going to be together, but they're not going to be there. It's going to be somewhat unique compared to the floppies. The floppies have errors in them, which I left in there so that I want them to find the things that are in there so that they can call me and start a conversation or message me, and I'll send them some artwork. I'll send them a print. I'll do it. I want to interact with my fan base, and it's been great because people have messaged me and says, "Did you mean to do this, or did you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did. I meant to do that." Or so it's good. It's driving. It drove Chuck bonkers when he first saw it because he's like, "Dude, what's going on with this book, man? There's errors like on 6 page." I'm like, I know, dude. I know. Hold on. Just there's a marketing strategy to this. We're not going to do it on any other but the first 2 books. Thank God. He said, "Thank God." He says, "I'm not going to be able to edit that. I can't proof this, because it's got, I said, "But we'll change it in the trade." So I said that way the people they'll have a different value with the trades and the people that originally supported me will have the unique runoffs that we had and the issues, in the issues. So that's the way I looked at it anyway. It was a marketing strategy. So I don't know if it's working, but I don't know if I recommend it for everybody. So
Okay. Well, obviously not Chuck. It would work for Chuck.
No, Chuck's great though. He's
Chuck's awesome.
He's been godsend. He's just been awesome. So
now where are you releasing these? Are you kickstarting Indiegogo?
No, privately funded. Yep.
Oh, okay.
All of them. Archimedes. We're talking right now about, because it's going to be a larger format. We're going to be doing a little bit more. There might be 10 books involved. So I think I'm going to be kind of looking at I'm looking at a lot of things you're doing. I'm looking at a lot of things that other artists are doing or producers are doing, because it's Indiegogo, Kickstarter, both of them they're viable. And I think honestly that's going to be our next distribution model. I mean, at least that's what I think. I think 5 years from now we're going to be looking back on this, and it's just going to be Indiegogo, whatever they want to call it. That'll be our distribution model. But I don't know. Again, I want to see what, because I've seen some really crappy Kickstarters and crappy Indiegogos, and I want to raise that bar just a little bit, because I've seen some really just stellar ones. And Archimedes is going to be kind of my opus. I want to make sure that one's go. Retrieve is my baby, but Archimedes is going to be the icing on the cake. You know what I mean? When I really want the art to be something different, very cyberpunkish, very not dark, but raw. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I got you.
And there's a certain type of book I want, actually the material that I want for the book. So, there's a lot of dynamic there. So I'm going to have to see, evaluate everything, see where we are economically, where Christine and I are, and see if that's going to be something that because I think, Chris is all about it. She's like, you've got enough people that care about what you're doing now. You got a fan base that's huge. You owe it to them to do something special and have them involved with what you're doing. I said, I know, but, I don't want to burden them. And then they feel like but I have to change that mindset, because I have to change that mindset, because I know it's a good story, and I know that people are, they're excited, and they've been part of the journey. And that's a big thing too, watching me grow and then being part of that, and then having people, at the shows when we're back to them, and you know what I'm saying? So,
also the thing with, with the fans, they want to be burdened. They're fans for a reason. They want, they want that interaction. They want the books, and that's the one thing I remember one person, because I felt at one point, I thought I was putting out too many Kickstarters. I thought I was doing too many Indiegogos, and they were like, no, because you got to remember, comic books come out monthly.
Right.
And people are used to that monthly, they want that fix.
Right.
The quicker you give it to them, the better.
Sure.
So it's just like,
Sure. And that's the other thing too, because I want to have the books. I want to have the books done before I do that. And I think that I owe that to my fan base, because I don't. I've seen too many people that don't have the books done, and it's not that I'm not saying you or anybody, but it's just, and then they don't fulfill it, and it's like, I don't want that. I would feel horrible if that happened. You know what I mean? And we didn't calculate it properly. So we'll figure it out. But we've got 6 months. We got to get the retrieve end of it done, and then I've got the other scripting I'm working on too, besides the book. So we're trying to get that wrapped up too. So that's a big one. So that's going to take us some. That's another thing that's happening, that as they're rolling out the comic books, it's also being scripted. So it's it's not touch and go, but it's very interesting how the book, has one way of developing, and then the script for the live action is different. So it's a very different way of, I've never thought it'd be like that, but yeah, it's been interesting.
Well, let's talk about that then, now that you brought it up, because you told me that you'd gotten some interest from Hollywood, from California. So I mean, you're working on a script,
right?
And so talk about that process of like trying to translate this story from a comic book into like a movie script.
And that was one thing too, that, like I said, the books have only been out for let's say a year, or the second book just came out. Actually, I had the first book in August of last year, and then everything happened with COVID and all that. So the second book just came out. Third book will be out in about a month. But I've been working on the synopsis in that for years. So I've been sending it out for digestion, I guess, to people. And a producer in California I've been trying to work with for about 3 years now, actually bought the book back in August from one of my local comic book stores here in Bay City, Michigan. And I got a call from Bay City, and the comic book, John Cashman, by the way, John Cashman's Comics in Bay City, sorry at the plug, but called me. He says, he said, I just sold a book to California. I said, really? He said, do you know who it is? I said, I don't know who it is. And he said, okay, cool. So anyway, so it ends up being Craig Hall. And Craig, he's done a lot of different movies, a lot of different, not high budget, but he's done enough movies to where he's working with PBS now on documentaries. He's got a lot of things going as far as directing and that. So he's worked everything from Universal Studios when he was a teenager all the way up through the gamut. So he's well connected through the industry. But the thing that's nice about Craig is that he's got that's what he does. All he does is scripting, and he writes for a particular movie house that so they have what they call first show rights, I guess it is. So once the script's done, he's already got a contract that states that they have to basically be the first pitch before they open it up to the full source, where you can go to you're going out to different other movie production facilities. So so when he called me, he says, let's do a Zoom call, and I said, okay, cool. So I did a Zoom call, and we got we were talking. He says, I want to do this. He said, you've waited long enough. You got the book out. The idea works. He says, we can make this. We can do this. He says, and I won't get into the basics of the directorship and all that other in production and whatever my label is. And, it's basically getting it to option. That's the idea. So you've got a scripting, you got a script base that I work on with him. He takes the storyline, he presents it into another format as far as how cameras would be situated. There's a couple different ways we can do it, because Retrieve can go many different ways. You can do live action, you can do animation, there's a lot of different formats. I really wanted live action because of the humanity of it all. I don't think you're going to get it. You're not going to get it if it's
animated.
The humanity of Archimedes, even though he's an AI, you have to be human to be inhuman, and for him, it's vice versa. It's kind of like Pinocchio in a way, in some respects, but with that, I think you needed that in live action, and Craig's got it. Craig knows what he understands the concept of the story, of how it could be. You can make it really funny, or you can make it very serious. And I wanted to have a balance. I wanted to have a couple tongue-in-cheek moments, and then I wanted to have some serious, oh my God, that would change everything if we wrote that into that storyline, or if it. And the other thing too, Chuck's input on a lot of this is great, because it's very similar to what Craig is doing, and it's good to see some people that are taking the story and kind of making it plastic. They can maneuver it into clay a little bit.
Right.
So, make it very malleable. So with that, it doesn't, these things don't happen overnight. I mean, it took me, like I said, 3 years to even get it to the point. And then you knew I was serious once the book came out. Then, he said, okay, I'm ready to put some money into this. Let's do. And that's just it too. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be made into a movie, but if it gets optioned, I'm totally cool with that. You know what? Take it off the block for 3 years. Awesome. Let's rewrite it. Let's figure out how do we, maybe we can bring in another angle. Maybe it'll be another segue to Archimedes. But my biggest thing is I just want to make sure people know that this does happen and it can happen for you. If you've got a good story and you've got belief in it and you're not a jerk and you're honestly, you're trying to help people too, you can do some really amazing things with the right people. I've said this since day one. There are no self-made men or women. Everybody has somebody that they've relied on to help them somehow. You might not know him. You might not know the guy who made your shirt, but he made it for you or she made it for you, and it's on you. So there are your glasses that you wear. Everybody's involved. If COVID taught us anything, we're all connected. So, but yeah, I don't know if I answered your question on that part of it. But as far as the script, though, the biggest thing with all of it, make sure you do your homework. Make sure you get your contracts looked at. You got a real good contract attorney too. He's great. So, but yeah, that's, you got to make sure all your I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and go with your gut. If you don't feel right about something, then, stick with it. Don't just give it out to anybody, the first person that calls you,
Yeah. I mean, so obviously everything went well with your contract and it went smoothly.
Yeah. There's a couple things that we're still working on, as far as the scripting goes, but as far as there was only like 2 major things I wanted. And those were covered. So it's, it's like anything. You just have to take it with a grain of salt. And then, a lot of the guys, they opt for, and we haven't gotten to this stage yet as far as numbers on percentages or anything like that. There's not that's still working. I'm still spreading that out because that takes time. You can't just say, oh, I want 15% over the top, whatever. There's certain standards that they have in the industry. So some people knock it out of the park and they get, 6 figures for their first initial draft or whatever. Not everybody is J.K. Rowling or Myers from Twilight. Not everybody's going to knock it out of the park like that and get to the point where you can write the check, for $1.5 million or whatever. That's fine. That happens, but
if you can get it,
and you got to be realistic. Yeah. I mean, it's the idea is sound. You still own the intellectual property. That's a big thing too. You own your rights to your intellectual property. You got to be really careful with that. And with Craig, I've trusted him over the years anyway. So, and I think the world of him. So I don't think it's going to be. It's not even it never was even a question. And people. Like I said, if you don't feel right about it, you'll know. I mean, go with your gut. So. Yeah.
I think the best piece of advice I've ever gotten with I had a publisher who was interested in Oswald. Because I used to write it in prose, and he wanted to pick it up, and I was like, okay, fine. I went and met him, and he made me an offer, and I was just like, it's just really not a lot of money, and I was just like, and he wanted like way more rights than I was willing to give up, and I was just like, and then I called a friend who was a publisher, and he asked me, he said, do you need the money? I was like, nope. It was like, because honestly, I was in a spot where, I was fine. Financially, I was just like, I had my savings and I had, whatever.
That was okay.
I was good. And he was like, so don't worry about it. Don't take the contract. And I was like, yeah.
All right,
and
cool.
that's the thing.
I mean, you're flattered, right? You are flattered, and we want to be noticed.
Exactly.
We want our work to be appreciated. I get that.
Right. And then he got hit by a bus like 9 months later. So.
Are you kidding me? You're kidding.
He got T-boned. He got T-boned. I mean, it's sad.
Did he die?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, dude. I'm not even to laugh. Just the way you presented it. It was like, oh my god.
No. Yeah, I know.
I'm so sorry for his family and that. I'm sorry.
It was terrible because I mean, he was an all right guy. But he had a lot of people didn't like him. So.
Sure, it was a bus driver. God.
No, he was
writer too, huh? Wow.
He was driving somewhere in Long Island. I guess he was looking at his phone and he wasn't paying attention, and he drove into an intersection and he got T-boned by a bus.
Lights out.
On the driver's side. So yeah, he was,
lights out. That was instant.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate, but
yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. And the thing is though, is if I had signed that contract,
Oh yeah.
The company was eventually sold to somebody else.
Sure.
It had all this
Who
other
knows
stuff.
what would happen? Yeah.
Exactly.
You would
So
have still been on the hook. Yeah. Yeah.
right. So yeah, I
Wow.
was just
Wow.
I dodged that bullet. Thank God.
Yeah, big time. Well, the,
Mhm.
the book looks great. I mean, I
Thank you.
gotta say, I checked out everything out on Kickstarter. I was like, wow, that looks. So your wife does the artwork?
For all right, so we do two books. We do one
Yeah.
called Tall Tales. That's the one she illustrates.
Okay. Cool.
And then the other one I work on is called the Oswald Chronicles, and that one is illustrated by an artist. Her name is Jade Gonzalez.
Beautiful
She's
stuff.
She's out of
Nice.
Chile.
Really,
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah.
Hit it out of the park. Looks really good.
Thank you. Yeah, I try to I try to work with the right people.
Sure. Well, and that's just it. You got to delegate, and you want to make sure you know, everything's met. I know.
Yeah, because sometimes you see people and you're like, why are you working with that person? Or maybe they need a little bit more art direction than you're giving them. But sometimes people don't want to be heavy, and I get it. Sometimes you don't want to be like,
that. I know.
You don't want to be like, can you redraw that page again?
Yeah.
You're like,
I got a corporate side of me, and then you've got not the corporate side of me. The corporate side of me is not a very nice person, and I'm glad I got away from that. There's still a little bit of remnants of it, but
right.
I try not to be like that. I get frustrated sometimes, but yeah, I'm with you. I get it, and it's hard.
It's hard.
Art of War is a good book to read.
It'll
tell you a lot about how to manage people, be insulting and not disrespectful, or let me rephrase that. You can be assertive and not insulting, and disrespectful. Be assertive, and try to always raise the bar. Leave it better than it was before you got there, at least. But.
Exactly. All right, so cool. So we've been at this for a little while. We're close to the end, but we're not at the end just yet. I got a few more questions for you.
Okay.
So, all right, first, let's do this one. Where can people find you, your work, to buy, to purchase?
Sure.
And, any other, media, or if you want to plug anybody, now's the time.
TedDaviesArtistry.com is a one-stop shop for everything. You can reach everything from my books to my apparel, anything that any of my artwork that I have is all kinds of apparel and coffee mugs, you name it. But all of it's through TedDaviesArtistry.com. And go through my YouTube channel. You can reach my Facebook page, everything. So that would be my one-stop for you. You can go through there and just have at it. Give me a message. Let me know you stopped by. And TedDaviesArtistry.com or Ted Davies Artistry Facebook, Ted Davies Artistry Instagram. So it's all Ted Davies Artistry.
Gotcha.
So as far as we could be on for another hour of me plugging everybody as far as all the people that I appreciate. And we are going to be I've got a show this weekend, Sunday at 2 p.m. For the Indy event.
Doing
that, so look for that on Ted Davies Artistry on Facebook, and that'll be all posted. I think it should be posted now, if I'm not mistaken. So 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be doing promoting your peers.
Cool.
How everybody is not in competition with each other.
Right.
We're all there to raise each other up. So,
so this is very true. That's one of the reasons why I started this show, was to try to reach out and meet new people and help people out. Well, hopefully I can get the channel to a point where I'm actually making a difference.
Sure. Well, you are. Your content's great. You got everybody leaves with a smile on your show. So.
Yeah, I'm trying. All right, and then okay, so let's get to right. And here's the last one. My last question: is there anything that you wanted to discuss, or maybe a question I didn't ask that you wanted to be asked? Is there anything along those lines that I maybe wouldn't cover?
The only other thing was how was we're going to beat COVID to death, but how has things changed? How has everything changed the last year? What are you doing to promote your business? That's what I would have asked you if you were on. I would have said, okay, what happened over the last 4 months or 5 months? How has your business grown or failed or what have you? So go ahead and ask me. No,
there you go. So how have you changed your business habits?
Everything's online now, and it's been great. That's been a really good thing. I've been able to interact with people that I never thought I would have met otherwise physically. I mean, you and I, we wouldn't have been at our local. We might have hit a Comic-Con somewhere, maybe New York, maybe, but most likely I've been very fortunate because I've met just a ton of people, including Craig Hall, who's the producer that's writing the script for Retrieve. So there's been the way I think COVID, there's two ways you can look at it. You can look at it as, okay, the disease, okay, it's terrible, it's a virus. Okay, so how do we manage it? Do the best we can. Help the people that need help. And wash your damn hands, wear a mask. Okay, great. What benefits do we have from it? The world's very small now, and you can either make it break you, or you can embrace it, and you can have everybody learn from this and how we can all work together. We've all promoted each other over the course of the last 4 months. I've promoted probably more people than I think I have in probably 5 years of anything business-wise. I've spent more money investing in independent creators, and I've invested back into ourselves as well. But it's been a luxury staying at home in some regards. It's been kind of scary going out, but as far as business goes, I think it's been great because hopefully it's teaching people that they can work from home. We can do things if we're creative enough online, as long as we have the internet access, and the phone to work it. But yeah, I think it's we've grown tenfold. My business has been very good. Now, having said that, though, I would prefer to be kissing hands and shaking babies, so to speak, at Comic-Cons. I'd like to meet people and interact, because that's really the name of the game. And the commission work when I'm on the sales floor like that is awesome. I can do. I love having a person come up and ask me to draw something for them that because they like my art style. I love that. Eat that up, But yeah, I miss the Comic-Cons, but it's been a nice breather. And I'm gearing up right now. I'm building that foundation, use an architectural term. I'm building that foundation so that when we're ready and we can start going back, as long as we're smart about it, not stupid about it, and we're safe, then I'm ready. Or we're ready. So, okay. Right. Good question.
Cool. Yes. Good question. Thank you. So now we'll get on to some sillier questions.
Sounds good.
So you're an artist, you're a writer, but you're an artist, and you're a publisher. Now I don't know if you're into this sort of thing, but let's say if you had the option of getting an artist to do a guest cover for you, right? And it could be any artist, any comic book artist, living or dead. Don't worry about the expense. We'll foot the bill. Okay. Who would you want to get to illustrate a cover for your book?
Mike Mignola.
Okay.
That's it.
Right.
That's it. No question. Right. Hands down, Mike would be it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's an expensive one.
Yeah, it's always who you know. I'll figure out I'll meet him somehow. We'll figure something out. Maybe we'll trade.
He's a nice
he
guy.
He does a lot of watercolor, actually.
Yeah, he does.
We mentioned.
Yeah, he's a very nice guy. But it's just that I've seen he's been doing a lot of these little doodle things.
Right. Fantastic.
Yeah. But that stuff goes for incredible prices. Sure, he's been doing it for charity. Sure. It's just like, what? Okay. That's
great. The thing I like about them as a couple, him and Christine, I think her name is. They, she was basically selling his prints out of the garage. She was shipping them out. You know what I mean? She had quality work done, everything else, and then had these things. She was shipping them out. They did it, bare bones, man. They did it for years like that. I have a lot of respect for both of them. So,
all right, cool. Now, so let's say you got the golden ticket, right? And you got the call up to the big companies. And they said, Ted, come on up. We need your genius, right?
Scary thought. Yeah.
And they said, so which book or characters, group of characters, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't necessarily have to be Marvel or DC, be any of these companies, like Judge Dredd or whatever. Who would you want to write and draw?
I'd go, but you know what I really would like to draw? I think it would be a lot of fun. Would be Ape Sapien.
Okay.
Ape Sapien Dark Horse. I really like, and these are Mike's creations, but I really like Lobster Johnson. I don't think he gets the cover that he should. He did in a little bit in the last movie,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, Ape Sapien is such a unique character. You know, the whole storyline is interesting to me, but him as a standalone would be a lot of fun.
Right.
I think that he's again, you're back to humanity. The things that are less human seem to be more human in the storylines. So yeah, I would definitely would pick Abe.
Okay.
Abe Sapien. Real, it's off the cuff. I know that you're thinking like Wolverine or and that's great. Those are awesome, but yeah, that would have been it.
Listen, I could tell you a couple of characters. You'd probably look at me like, who?
Who was it?
You know, I'd be like,
ahead, man, fire away.
Well, one character that, if given my druthers, I'd really like to write is Captain Paragon.
Don't know it.
Right.
Who's
AC? That? He's from AC Comics, Americomics.
Really?
They do. You may have seen FemForce.
Yeah.
From them. Okay, so they're still doing that, but way back when I was a kid, they produced a comic book called Captain Paragon, and I really enjoyed the character, and I was just like,
and it stuck with you all these years. That's awesome, man.
Exactly.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one of the things I would go for. All right, so let's move on. I got some comparatives for you.
Okay. Right? A or B? A or B questions?
A or B questions, yes. Okay. I have my two softballs that I always start with.
Yeah, I know you
All
do.
right, so we'll start with those. All right.
I've watched a few of your videos.
Godzilla or Gamera?
Godzilla. Done. Yep.
Okay. Captain America or Batman?
That's a good one. Which Batman?
That's up to you. It's your head.
I really like Captain America, but I get really tired of the good guy crap all the time. You know what I mean?
Okay.
He does. Yeah, it has to be Batman just because he's flawed. And, I know he's got the gadgets, but he's flawed and he's human. I mean, that's it, period.
Right.
That's it.
Fair enough. Lovecraft or Poe?
Lovecraft. Hands down. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Twisted.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Twisted. Yes, he is.
Stan Lee or Jack Kirby?
I think Kirby.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I admire about Kirby was the drafting desk.
Right.
That plywood drafting desk that he sat at.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how he did not have osteoporosis leaning over that thing. I've got a beautiful desk from the 1940s. It was from Willow Run. Do you Rosie the Riveter? You know that?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they built all these warships and these airplanes out of these hangars. Well, this desk came from one of those hangars, and it's got the original dots and holes from the compasses and everything else. And I think back, and I'm looking back at Kirby, what he could do with with the size of a desk like this. What he would have done. And then let's see what he created, the volume that he created on that splinter board that he had. Yeah. I think Stan was fine. I don't mean that. Stan was a good guy and everything, but there's all the politics set aside, I think, just from a logistics stand, not logistics, but just Kirby, period.
I got you. Barker or King?
King. Yep.
Fair enough. All right. So you're a horror fan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I should say that. I used to be a horror fan. My wife doesn't really prefer horror. So about 20, we've been married 20 years. So it's, I'm sparingly, I watch it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like super gore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Why? What's up?
Pinhead or Freddy Krueger?
Oh, Pinhead, man. Absolutely. That guy was a legend, man. Are you kidding me? Freddy was nursery school, man. Hellraiser was that, you
Yeah,
got
Hellraiser.
a person walk around without any skin on their body. I mean, come on, forget it. Though that whole crew was that whole motley thing with the teeth and all that. That whole group was like, and the hooks. Oh, forget it.
Yeah. It's
Nightmares.
horrifying.
Yeah, it was, man. It was absolutely.
I don't know if you're gonna be the first person I ask this question to.
Okay.
I don't know if you'll know the reference or
Okay.
Hogwarts or Break Bills. Now, do you know? Is from the Magicians.
No, Hogwarts,
Okay.
absolutely, because
Yeah.
that's the kids, everything, man. That's J.K.
Yeah. If you ever get a chance to, if you ever run across those books, those are fantastic books.
All right.
Like I said, just if you read the first one, you enjoy it, forget about it. Just burn through the rest of them. They're like, I think
they're
I
easy
read
to
the
read.
thing-
Easy.
I want to, yeah. Okay, so I read them in 7 days, the 3 books, and the only reason it took me that long is I had to get the books from Amazon. Like, I had to wait to get them. And that's the only reason it took me that long.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was funny because I had gotten the first book, and it sat on my shelf for years.
Yeah.
And then I just had to take a trip somewhere on a train. I was like, let me just grab it, and I just started reading it.
Yeah, perfect time to read.
Yeah, and that was it.
All right, take you up on
that. Lord of the Rings or Star Wars?
I have to say Star Wars because it's it's Americana at its finest. The first 3 movies. I mean, I enjoyed the whole entirety of Star Wars in general, the whole world. But yeah, the first 3 movies were such a long time waiting. You were there, right? So you had to wait 4 years for these movies to come out, and it was like these were rites of passage. The first one came out, I was 7. Next one came out, I was 11. And so forth. Sorry, and that's Star Wars.
Gotcha.
Can't believe you asked me that question, Lord.
Next gen or DS9?
Next gen.
Okay, fair enough. All right, we'll do a couple more and then we'll wrap it up.
Sounds good.
My favorite, Byrne or Perez?
Perez. George is. I consider him a friend. I was very fortunate to meet him a few years ago. We did a lot of. We did, I should say, Dan's Dream up in Lansing, Michigan, and they are down in Lansing, Michigan, and they teach little kids how to. They have trouble reading with comic books, and he has one of the largest collections Dan does of private comic book art in the country. And George was always good enough to donate to this foundation, and I had a chance to meet. It's a funny story. I'll make it real quick. I know you got to go.
No, go ahead.
So over at Motor City Comic Con about 7 years ago, and my buddy Pete is big comic book, owns a comic book store in the whole shot, and he and I go way back, and we're out there. Christine and I are walking, and we're walking around this van that's parked in the front of the hotel. Guy opens up the thing. Bald guy opens up the back of the van, and Pete walks by and says, "Hey, George, I got somebody I want you to meet." And so I'm standing there, and Pete didn't tell me that I was going to, he said, and George sets the, this is when he was feeling better. He sets the bag down. He turns around. Pete says, "This is George Perez." I'm like, I about fell out. And Christine's looking at me like, "Are you all right? Are you okay?" She's thinking I'm having a stroke or something.
Right.
No. Anyway, so I got fanboyed for a minute. I calmed down. Now she's a huge fan of George. She's been a huge fan of George for years because he was so nice, so endearing. He's like, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. I'm just George. I draw things, and it was, for me, it was meeting, what I mean? I can't, people line up for him, and here I am at the back of his car, helping him with the luggage to get into the hotel. I mean, Pete's just like, yeah. Anyway, so from that point on, we were, he's a really good guy. So he's a really, really good guy. So.
All right, cool. Yeah, George is a very nice guy. All right, last question.
Okay, drum roll.
Firefly or Farscape?
I gotta say Firefly, man. I gotta, I dig that.
Okay.
The brown coats, all that. Yeah, I mean, the Castle before he was Castle. Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think that there was an interesting story. Though that it was, it was kind of B-ish, B movie-ish, and that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm digging that. And but yeah, it's cool. Totally
All
good.
right.
What about you? What do you think?
I'm a Farscape guy.
Whatever.
Look, I mean, there's a whole thing that we can get into, but another time, another day. I love my puppets.
It's all good. It's all good. I appreciate your
Henson,
time, man, so much. Thank you for having me on and showcasing me a little bit. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it so much.
No. Thank you for coming on. And please, one more time, Ted, let everybody know where can they find you and where can they find your work.
TedDaviesArtistry.com. You can check everything out there. It'll have all my links to everything from Instagram to YouTube to my shop, my clothing line, the whole shot. So anything we can do to help you out, I'd love for you guys to read some of my work and enjoy it. I'll sign any books that you purchase and have them delivered to you. So, and I appreciate being on here, JDs. Thank you. You're great. You're great, man.
Right. I'm trying. Thank you so much, folks. Please like, subscribe, share out the show. I'll be talking to you later. Go check out Ted's work. Go check out the Indiegogo, and I'll be talking to you soon. Have a great night.